My earliest memory is riding in my grandfather's boat, arm over the side, hand in the spray. I've spent much of the rest of my life chasing this feeling. All of that has led to this, the wooden boat experience. The weather was all over the place on Wednesday. It was a good time to get back in the boat shed and back to work on the Chris Craft. I think I mentioned this before, but maybe not. I realized that the end of this strake just isn't good. This plywood's in bad shape here. So what I'm going to do is remove these screws. I'm going to pop out these two clinch nails, and then I'm going to put a scarf here and replace just this piece. So let's get to removing it, and hopefully I'll be able to make a piece right now, and we can epoxy that in place and then also work farther down on the garboard while we got the epoxy out. Let's get this thing out of here. To remove these clinch nails, I take a small drill bit and drill out the center of the head, then a larger bit finishes off the job. Then I push the shaft into the hull and get rid of it. Remember, the strake overlaps behind, so you have to cut down in. That's what I'm doing with the saw here. When you try to remove a small piece that's in as bad a shape as this one is, it's amazing to you to think that any boat just ever has one happen on its own, and how bad a shape that piece must be in when it happens. Now to clean this whole area up and get rid of all the excess garbage. A piece of marine mahogany plywood. First you remove a little bit, then you take it over to check it. Then a little bit more, and then you check it. A little bit more, and then you check it. Okay, let's see how this fits. A little bit off on the back side of this, and off on the back side of this. Then I think we're pretty good. Okay, let's give it a final fit here. I would say that that is pretty good. Definitely use machine screws on these two. This one will be a wood screw. These are back to the same wood screws. And then there was only one rivet here. Didn't bring my pencil back with me. How is it that a guy that owns so many pencils never has a pencil? So there's where that is. You might want to check behind your ear, dummy. Down a quarter. So that's for that one right there. That was a clinch nail, but we're going to go with a machine screw there. All right, let's clean up this garboard so we can run some of the Thixoflex down there, and use Thixoflex on this and on this scarf here. 5200 here, here, and here. Now here's a good example. Let me get you guys out of here for a second. If you look right here, this lighter stuff that you see is Chris Craft's version of 5200, whatever it was. I think back in the 50s it would have been a 2-part mix. Look at that stuff, how tenacious it still is, how it's still holding after all these years. 1955 to 2020 is a long time. It's pretty amazing that that's still that good. So that's why I don't worry that much about this boat leaking at these joints. But the garboard's a different story. But we're going to use our version, the mahogany 5200 or whatever we got open. Here, here, and here. Epoxy here, and then epoxy down this garboard joint. We'll get that prepared right now. And now, shameless merchandising.
Hello, it's your roving reporter here, having a little trouble with the camera. Don't forget that there's still some of these glasses available on glassgoat.com, along with t-shirts, hats, stickers, and some other stuff. If you don't see the right boat on one of these glasses, just get hold of Scott and he'll make you the one you want. Same price. www.glassgoat.com.
Okay, the 60 Flex is ready. And we have some 5200, or as we've called it before, the devil's toothpaste. So first we're gonna get this piece in here, and then we'll epoxy down here with the garboard. So some epoxy here for this scarf. We don't need it too awful thick here. Remember, epoxy is not the same as resorcinol. With epoxy, you don't need a perfect joint and you don't want to squeeze it all out. And now the 3M 5200. With both, I'm hoping for a little squeeze out when we get it tightened down. If you don't get squeeze out, you probably didn't put enough in. And you don't want to try to take it back apart. Stuff is messy after it's together the first time. I think you can hear the goats in the background complaining because it's almost feeding time. And the wind is blowing a little bit today. But one thing I've been thinking about doing is over here behind me, this clear spot, there's the sunshade is, a shade cloth is on top of it now so it looks black. But that clear is what makes all the noise. And the problem is it's blowing around, and I think I'm gonna get my hands on some shrink wrap that's clear, and then we won't have that problem all winter of the noisiness. Because that clear was just regular greenhouse plastic and not the greatest one in the world. Just something I got off Amazon. So it's got to be replaced anyway. So before it gets too cold, we'll do that. Add that to the list of 8,000 other things that need to be done around here. Very carefully. Hopefully these screws line up. Tell you what, you drop a screw here on the ground into that wood shavings, and sometimes they can be pretty hard to find. Now, unfortunately, this slipped just down, I don't know, maybe a 64th of an inch, but there's nothing that a tiny bit of sanding won't take care of. Now, I don't want to over tighten that because then we'll have a problem with it just popping because it's only into the wood. This, I don't want to tighten yet because this is a wood screw and it'll pop that out. We're going to get underneath, put the nuts on these, and then tighten them up. And add that screw in there. Now I'm sure some of you noticed I got the grain going the other way here. It is a piece of plywood, so green doesn't matter that much, and it's going to get faired, and also this part will have bottom paint on it, which means it's not going to be the smoothest paint in the world anyway, because this boat probably will sit in the water a lot, so it'll have to have anti-growth bottom paint. Now I am pretty happy with the results of that. All right, let's get to the rest of this epoxy. Put you guys on time lapse. So it's hard to see, doesn't really look like much. There's not a lot of epoxy there. I just ran down it with a tube and then used this screed and just wiped it off, so it wasn't a big fillet. It just kind of fell down in, and I think that's going to work out really well. Now I got to finish fairing this still, but this side's not that far from being done, except for up in the front. There's quite a bit of fairing to do, but while it's still warm, I'm going to get on this because this fairing stuff works a lot better when it's warm outside. And pretty soon it'll be cool enough that the shade cloth comes off. So then it'll get a lot warmer in here during the day. I'm going to try and walk that fine line between those two things because I'm not putting the shade cloth back up this year once it comes off. Probably another week or so. Next week's only supposed to be in the 50s for high. I don't mind that. It's warm enough in here. After that, it starts to get a little lower. The shade cloth's coming off. A quick word about Thixoflex and 5200. First 5200, I know I make fun about it, call it devil's toothpaste. Where it's useful, it's super useful. You just don't want to use it where it doesn't belong, and you can have 8,000 arguments with people about where it doesn't belong. So that's enough to be said about that. But Thixoflex, there's a couple things about this, and we talked about this a long time ago, but when you use this tube, there's a mixing thing here. So when you get to about halfway down on a normal, what would be normally halfway on a caulk tube, this one's gone. So keep that in mind when you're using it. And I know when you look at it, you look at the price. It's less than $30 for this tube. You might say, well, that's pretty expensive. Well, boat building's not cheap, even when you do it the way I do it, which is relatively inexpensive. But I have no problem ordering this every time I order it because it's done a lot for me so far, and I'm really, really happy with what it's done. So again, just like the 5200, you use it where it belongs. I'm experimenting a little bit on this garboard right now, but I did experiment on my lineman already, and it worked well there. And I'm hoping it works well here. Another thing that's not cheap is these countersinks, but I use them all the time. This is somewhere to spend some money. Definitely, these Fuller countersinks are awesome. Jamestown has these. And I don't know if you can buy them right from Fuller or not, but I just bought them from Jamestown. They're adjustable. There's plug makers in here, collars to make sure you hit the same depth every time if you want to. I mean, I use these all the time. It seems like every day when I'm in the boat shed, I pick these things up. Well worth the money. So that's it for today. Now tomorrow I gotta edit. I was taking the GoPro out. I almost forgot. Well, I did forget until I remembered. Don't forget to check out the Port Townsend Virtual Wooden Boat Festival. That's where this t-shirt came from. I've been watching it. I've got another couple weeks to watch it. Even if you buy your tickets now, you still got 2 weeks. There's a ton of stuff on there. I doubt you're gonna get to everything. Some wooden boat experience videos are on there to do with the Antique Boat Museum, 3 of those. And then one sort of has to do with the Boat Museum because it's Pardon Me, which is at the Boat Museum. So check out the Port Townsend Wooden Boat Festival. And of course, always check out and subscribe to the Wooden Boat Experience. seems like summer is never going to end, but I know this week it is. It's going to get crappy and the boat's going to be put away. But today we can enjoy it because it doesn't get any better than this. It was time to get the skiff properly situated. I want to measure for the stations or molds and create them before I move it to the other building. Somebody asked me questions about stations or molds. What are they? Well, here in this photo you can see the stations or molds sitting on a strongback after the boat has been pulled off. When the boat lap strakes are all put together, it gets pulled off of there, turned right side up, like in this picture here, and the ribs are added in, or frames, depending on where you are. Thanks to the Antique Boat Museum for these photos of how it works. Another one. It's kind of strange because these are all copper clinch nails. Copper tapered clinch nails used here and actually in the wrong place. That's not where you want to use those. And there was one right here. It's hard to tell. And then come to find out these strange looking screws here, which I'll show you a detail of, those are actually mild steel screws, but they have a brass cap over the top to make them look like they're brass screws. And that's why the slot doesn't go all the way to the edge of the head. Must be brass was real expensive when this was built. So we will continue to take this apart. And also ring nails. I was asked what ring nails are, and here's a picture of that as well. Call me crazy, but I think those mild steel finishing nails holding the deck on might have been a little bit of overkill. But then when you remove things like this piece that holds the seats, that's all attached with the copper clinch nails again. Get this in focus in here. And those clinch nails used in the wrong way. Strange combination. I guess when something's this old, it's been worked on a few times. But this combing was really bad. It was all attached with mild steel screws, you can see here, and also some mild steel nails as well, finish nails. So that had a lot of iron thickness and there was no saving that. But a lot of the cedar, I don't believe these decks are cedar. I'm not sure what that is yet, but it looks to me like it might be mahogany or oak. I haven't sanded it or planed it or anything to check it out, but I don't believe it's cedar. And then all these pieces on the side, they're stacked up. You can see these all seem to be made out of cedar, and the nails come out of it really easy once you get them moving. So we're making progress, and there's some things, looks like there's some marks. Maybe we'll find something written on the inside on these deck beams right here. But that's it for today. Got other stuff to do. The lineman has got to go out and take some people somewhere. Heading there right now. And the Airbnb, somebody's coming in there. So I got some actual responsibilities that I got to take care of. I did manage to also get out in the skiff this week and worked on the addition and a bunch of other stuff. But that's all that's going to fit in this video. See you next week in episode 8.